Hi, CASEA and CASEA friends, wherever you are, welcome to the Profit from Mistake Webinar Series, powered by CASEA Dialogue. I'm Vincent Chia, your CASEA host. This webinar, the Profit from Mistake Webinar Series, is all about learning from our CASEA loggers who are seasoned entrepreneur, business owner, business experts. We want to learn more about their businesses.
Hi, CASEA and CASEA friends, wherever you are. I'm Rudy Fang, also your CASEA host. The Profit from Mistakes Webinar Series is a franchise show powered by CASEA Dialogue of CASEA BC. Today is our first webinar and we are very happy to have our CASEA Logger here with us again, Ms. Joanna Liew. Ms. Joanna Liew is a Singapore citizen. After years in various roles in the government and education sector, Joanna pursued her Masters in Social Policy and Social Research in the University College London, where she was trained to use systematic review software, incorporating machine learning and natural language processing to automate the research process. Joanna developed also a keen interest in business analytics and machine learning and pursued further studies in data science and business analytics. She then founded a data analytics startup, Perceptive Consulting, focusing on providing analysis as a service for business owners and organizations.
Hi, Joanna. Welcome to the Profit from Mistakes webinar series. Thank you for all the sharing in the previous Profit from Mistakes episodes. Today, you're going to share with us a lot more about your business can help other entrepreneurs and businesses. CASEA and CASEA friends, in business world, we always experience storms, big and small. How do we steward our business ship so that our businesses does not sink but survive and thrive? Ms. Joanna Liew has prepared a presentation entitled Data as Your Anchor and Compass. Learn from industry case study on how businesses are using data to pivot their business strategy during the pandemic. Let's learn from her. CASEA and CASEA friends, Joanna will run her presentation slides for the next 30 to 40 minutes. Please feel free to type your question in the Zoom chat box. At the end of the presentation, Joanna will answer your questions. Thank you for your participation. Joanna, over to you.
And thanks, Rudy and Vincent, for the opportunity to share with CASEA Dialogue again. Yeah, so first of all, thanks to all the participants for being here to join us this evening. So first of all, I hope that everyone's doing okay during the phase 2 HA. I think it's been a challenging time, especially for many of the business owners. Some of our clients who are in FMB and all that retail as well have been having quite a tough time. So I think one of the things that we want to share today is really how can data be our anchor to steady our ship as well as our compass to give us direction in a difficult time. So I guess all of us are really like captains of our own ship. Whether, of course, we hope it's a cruise ship, but then maybe sometimes it's more of a battleship. Like we feel as though we are having to kind of go through different challenges every day. So today, in the different examples that I share, I hope that it can be useful and applicable for you. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to put it in the chat. Then I will address it at the end of it. So today, we'll just talk about how we can really keep calm and analyze on. Okay, so first of all, how do we steer our ship in uncertain times? So, as the captain of a ship, right, we need to look at a dashboard. So every captain has to look at something, right, in order to decide where to go. There's the map for you to know the location where you're at. There is the weather, the forecast in terms of what's the different, like whether there's a storm coming, whether the waves are going to be choppy and so on. So there's many different things that can affect how the ship is going to move and how we need to make decisions along the way. So this is what we actually try to do for different business owners to kind of put all the data, the most essential data that they need in one place on the dashboard. And to do that, we need to pull the data from many different places. It could be their sales systems, their HR systems, their accounting systems, and so on. And I'll share more about specific examples after this. Okay, so what I'll be sharing about today, the navigation. First of all, the purpose. So why do we even bother with data analytics, right? So we have so many things on our plate. So I always hear the business owner saying, Joanna, I have no time to look at this. I have to decide, what kind of delivery platform to go on. I have to decide what kind of menus to put out, what kind of campaigns to do. There's just so many things to decide on. So how can I have time to think about data analytics? So let's do it some other time. Yeah, but I hope to share with you why it's important and the purpose of it and how it can actually help you in making your decisions to improve the way the processes are, to increase the revenue, to improve productivity. Yeah, so the next one is also what steps can I take to transform my data, right? So there's just so many different challenges and there's different business questions that every business owner is facing. So there's all these pain points. So what we're trying to do is to look at how we can transform the data into useful insights in order to take action. So at the end of it is, how can I use my data effectively? How can I take good action with the data that I have in order to really apply it and improve the way that things are? So first of all, why bother and is it worth it? What's the value of the data? So first of all, just a quote that I like from Angela Arns, who is a SVP of retail at Apple. And she shared that consumer data will be the biggest differentiator in the next 2 to 3 years. So whoever unlocks the realms of data and uses it strategically will win. So what we see here is that there is so much data out there and that is going to differentiate your company from the other company. So like there's so many competitors nowadays, right? So when you have better knowledge, better understanding of your consumer, you can then unlock all these data and use it strategically to make the decision for the next step. Okay, so that is one of the quotes that I always look to. And another one is also this quote by an economist called Emily Austin. And she shared that the key to good decision making is evaluating the available information, the data that you have, and combining it with your own estimates of pluses and minuses. So she really does this every day in order to make good decisions. So I think that, you know, even in everyday life, right, when we want to say buy something online, we will also evaluate the choices. We will look at we'll do a bit of research, right? Like let's say I want to buy, I don't know, a new phone. I would kind of do some research. I would look at different information available to me. So in our business as well, when we want to make a decision about whether to say start a new product line, whether or not to say maybe even have to change to an online platform and which online platform to use, there's always these different data points that we need to kind of take in and then combine it with our own estimates. That means our own knowledge and our own experience and make a decision, right? Okay, so let me just share a few examples. First of all, just this case study of Dairy Farm Group. So this is what they did to help Jason's their new line to become their new chain to be profitable in just 3 months. So what they did was to gather insights first. So you know that Dairy Farm Group runs quite a few chains. So they have like cold storage and so on. So what they did was to first of all gather insights on shopper behavior. So this was different observations that they made. They said they had people there to do research, and then they also did interviews, face-to-face interviews, focus group discussions with the staff from the building that they were thinking of having their new supermarket at, and then they used the findings to decide what kind of revenue model to have, what kind of products to offer, who to target, and so on. So what they did was they found that, of course, in that building there were a lot of banking professionals, right? Because it was basically the anchor tenant was a bank. So what they did was to target these working professionals who actually need some of the lighter goods. You know, when after work they just want to pick up some meat or some vegetables after work. So they had some of these lighter fresh produce and not all the bigger heavy items that people would probably not get from their office supermarket. Yeah, so that was one of the things they did. And they also looked at targeting some of the families on weekends in terms of the snacks and all that people will be getting, and also some of the day-to-day like urgent items that people need. Yeah, and what they also did was to provide more self-service counters as well as self-bagging areas, because a lot of the people in the area were very conscious about, you know, the environment, about conservation. So they were happy to bring their own bags to work and also to come and pick up the food to bag it themselves. So what they did was to do some of these things, and that helped them to set up Jason's very successfully, and they were profitable within just 3 months, this new brand. So this is a case example of how a company can use data very well in order to decide what to do next in terms of how to expand their product line, how to start a new brand, and how to cater it better to specific needs. Yeah, so now just to share in terms of one of the clients that we work with as well, this is a local law firm. So what they do is really to look at their overall performance of the firm in terms of the monthly, annual basis, and they also look at tracking KPI targets for their lawyers across the firm to monitor their progress and to motivate them to increase contribution. So you know that during this period, of course, there's a lot of ups and downs in terms of the demand as well for things like branding, for things like trademarks and all that, because we know that all the businesses are suffering, so therefore the demand for such things will also go down in terms of the demand for legal services. So what we did was to help them to analyze some of the revenue trends by the case types and also the client types, so that they can then do more strategic outreach, especially during this period, to specific target groups. And this can help them to then meet their revenue growth targets. So this is an example of how, using the different data that they have in terms of their own revenue data, the contributions of the different lawyers, and also the different case types, the different categories, we can come together and to put together this picture for them to make a decision. So this is actually the dashboard that I shared about, the different dashboards that we can then use specifically customized for the company to then decide on what to do next. Another one that we want to share about is for a preschool chain. So this is in terms of lead tracking. So what we've done for this preschool chain is really to help them to look at some of the leads that they have. So this is like different questions that parents have posed. Along the way, there are many parents who will call up the center and ask, like, do you have a place? Can you share with me more about your center? So there are all these leads that come in. And it comes in from many different sources. So they want to look at it in terms of, does it come in from walk-ins? Does it come in from calls? Does it come in from their social media, their website, or even through referrals from the government agency? So there are just so many ways to that people can come in, and they want to analyze that. So this was the business question that they gave to us, and this is how we help them to kind of look at what are the leads and when is the expected date of commencement for the different incoming leads. That means the students who are coming in. So this helps them with their planning ahead. Whether should they open a new center, do they need to save some places for all these incoming leads and so on, and also whether they can divert some of them to maybe other centers as well, because they have quite a number of centers in the chain. So another thing, of course, is to look at conversion rates, which I think everyone here probably, you've seen conversion rates on whether it's by social media or other social media insights. You may have seen that in different kinds of ways, the way that they track it. But for this one, what we're looking at is the conversion rate across all the different channels. So there's also the conversion rate for walk-ins, the conversion rate for their call-ins as well. So we look at it across the board in terms of their overall conversion rate, so that they can see which kind of target groups they have, and also which kind of leads, which kind of sources are actually the most effective. So like you can see here, the call-ins were actually the most effective. So one of the ways that they can do is to still reach out to parents and giving them their number for them to call in, and to try to reach out through different platforms as well. So more omni-channel kind of marketing, looking at the kind of posters that they can put up near the school with the number there, with their QR code and so on. So it's a mix of different ways, not just through social media, but also through all the different more physical kind of marketing as well, the traditional ways of marketing. So this is some of the examples of how they've used the data and the dashboard to strengthen the kind of marketing that they do, and also strengthen the kind of methods that they have in terms of reaching out to targeted groups. So the next question really is, what steps then can we take to transform our data? What are the kind of questions that we have, and what are the kind of questions that we need to ask so that we can then answer the right business questions. So one of the first things that we did for this, this was a sole distributor for a skincare company. What they did was they actually asked us specific questions. They actually asked us which store should they close during the circuit breaker, when they realized that most of their sales were of course coming online, and their sales actually went up by 50%. So that was actually something surprising for them, and they realized that all along they've been selling in physical shops, right? They've had their own 3 or 4 physical shops, and they hadn't done much of online sales before that, but they were forced to do it because of the circuit breaker. So they had this question, so which one should I actually close? Should I actually close one of the shops? And how can I redirect the funds to other things? And what should I redirect it to? Yeah, so these were the key questions that they had posed to us. And the first one, of course, was to look at the physical outlets in terms of the profits and the sales distributions. And then we could see over time, clearly there's one particular outlet that was not doing well even before the circuit breaker, so that they can then use that to make a decision. Okay, maybe if you need to close one, we should maybe close that first, and then they can then divert the funds to a specific type of product. So if you look at the right here, there's the KPIs, right? So we are looking at sales targets, the KPIs that are measured for a specific product category, and you're looking at how they have performed over the past 1 year or so. And you can look at it across different time periods as well. So this is actually a live dashboard, but of course these are just screenshots from the dashboard for confidentiality. Yeah, so what we have was to show the kind of KPIs that they have met, the kind of digital marketing campaigns that have been put in place, and what was the ROI on that? Did they meet their goal? Did they actually reach the kind of sales that they wanted? Yeah, and then on the bottom right here, there's also the stock inventory. So that was something that they wanted to ask us as well. How can we better plan our orders from the US? Because they are a US-based company. I mean, they are a sole distributor in Singapore, so they need to do their orders of all the items from the US maybe like once every quarter. So let's say for the end of the year, they have all the Christmas sales and all that, and they are expecting that there will be a spike. So they need to do some kind of analysis to understand how has their stock inventory moved over the past 1 year. What is the kind of trend that they have seen, and how can they then predict the kind of demand that will be happening in the last quarter. So this has helped them also to then make a decision on how to make an advance, delivery order, especially now with the pandemic. So one of their concerns, of course, was with the pandemic, there will be delays, right? So there's delays in the whole supply chain. There's delays in things coming in from the US because of, at that time also, there was some uncertainty because of the elections and many things that were going on in the US. So how can they take a better, make a better decision in terms of understanding when they should make their delivery and also what kind of things should they order. Yeah, so these are just some examples. Another one for FMB. Yeah, so I'm not sure how many of you here are maybe from FMB as well. And I think that we've actually been speaking to quite a number of FMB business owners as well. Yeah, and we've realized that, of course, they've been, in a sense, also they've been given that new opportunity to go online. I mean, and for some of them, it's been quite challenging to kind of move the whole operations online and having to work with the whole delivery system and all that. So one of the things they wanted to do, of course, was to track their sales. They wanted to know how it's performing across the different outlets, both online and offline, and also looking at their sales in terms of the peak periods and off-peak periods, so that they can better plan their manpower. So this is really important for FMB because you know that a lot of the cost is from there's the kitchen staff, there's the front of house and so on. So there's just a lot of different considerations when they need to plan in a day how they want to roster their staff, and that impacts their profits very much, because the cost of the manpower is one of the main expenses. So what they asked for us to do, one of the key questions they wanted was to look at their sales totals, their sales averages, their peak periods, off-peak periods, and also to look at their different discount types. So now I think for a lot of us, when we order online as well, we're always looking for promo code, right? Yeah, so I think everybody wants what's the promo code so I can get my 15% off, my 20% off. This is not just for food, but also for all the other e-commerce kind of platforms. So what they can do here is to look at their different discount types that they offer and how popular are they. So they can see how effective their discounts are. And they can also look at things like their of course outlet popularity that is with the physical part in terms of takeaways and so on, and also looking at things like the total sales by month. Of course, this one would be it's affected by the circuit breaker and affected by many other factors during the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think what they could see here is really whether there is, say, a peak during certain holiday seasons and all that, which is still very helpful for them to decide, how they can decide on their sales campaigns, as well as what kind of items they need to order in for the next quarter as well. Yeah, so there's just many different things actually that they can look at, and all these are actually customized for them. And what we realized is that in the midst of all the changes, all the government restrictions, and all the different types of, from 5 people to 2 people, and then like no one, as in no dine-in, and then after that back to 2 people and so on. So there was all these changes, but what helped them was to see, look at the dashboard and kind of see, okay, I know that this is the amount that we are making from these different channels. So this can help me to make a decision about whether we should continue on this platform or not. Another thing that we helped them to look at was to look at the different payment modes. So everyone pays like through so many ways now, right? There's Alipay, FavePay, GrabPay, and so on. So we actually also did a trend in terms of like how much are people spending on which type of payment mode, so that they can then decide as well which payment modes to use or to focus on, instead of having maybe too many payment modes, which only has a certain fee that they need to pay as well. So these are different ways that we have tried to kind of help the FMB clients in terms of improving their services, and also improving their offerings in terms of the different menu items that they have as well. Yeah, so this is for FMB. Another one for FMB will also be the manpower cost, as well as like the full-time staff and the part-time staff. So we realized that there's all these labor cost ratios that they are looking at. So for example, for this particular outlet, they were looking at the 25% kind of target, and they wanted to make sure that it doesn't exceed their monthly target of 25%. So what they did was to look at redeploying their full-timers to other outlets if there's a lot that's being spent in a certain outlet. And then what they did was to kind of look at the dashboard to make decisions across the different outlets on how they can shift manpower across. So this is an example of that. Another one would be in terms of the number of orders taken per staff. So that is a productivity kind of measure. It's a proxy for productivity. So looking at how many orders each staff is making, and whether or not that means that certain staff are perhaps working harder, and whether they need to incentivize certain other staff, or they may actually work together with the team managers to kind of encourage some increase in productivity, or to see why is it that certain staff are perhaps bringing in a lot more orders. Is it more of a matter of the time that they are spending there, or is it a matter of the outlet itself that is having a lot more orders? So they do look at different factors, and we help them to kind of see, what is the trend in terms of the productivity, and whether it's evenly spread out across the staff as well. Okay, so the question really is now, you must be wondering, right? So while they've got so much data, and there's like so many different types of dashboards that can be built. Yeah, so you must be thinking, how can we then use our data, in your company, how can you use it effectively? So I think we've come down to really 4 key things. First of all, is measuring what are the key metrics. So really understanding what's the question first, because there's so many different things that you can actually measure. So I've given a few examples of things that we have measured for different clients and helping them to track whether it's KPIs, whether it is their manpower costs, whether it is their marketing ROI. So there could be just so many things that you want to measure. So usually what we do is we would have our calls with our clients to understand, okay, what is your number one thing that's keeping you awake at night? The one thing that's stressing you out right now in this, whether it's in the pandemic or anything else. What is your number one thing that you can, in a sense, fix within your own organization? Of course, if it's external, then that's kind of beyond what we can do. But if it's something that's within the ship itself, within your own business, that is something that we can perhaps try to look at and see what we can make a decision from using the data that you have. So first of all, we would ask them, what is the key thing that they want to measure? What's the key question? And then we would identify the key measurements, as in what are the metrics. So what are we actually measuring? So if your concern is the manpower issue in terms of the allocation and all that, then of course the metrics will be things like all these things, the peak hours, off-peak hours, the labor cost ratios, and also the timing in terms of when are they coming in terms of the staff rostering and so on. There's so many things that we can measure just for that one question. So we usually go through one or two calls with the client to kind of understand exactly what the metrics are. Then we can then move on to collecting the data in terms of looking at where the data is. So now one thing that's been good about this whole digitalization journey is that a lot of SMEs now are starting to use a lot of systems in terms of accounting systems, point of sale systems, and so on. So I'm sure that many of you are also using like one of the POS systems. There's so many out there now, and then one of the HR systems to track your payroll, track your leave, and so on. I mean, for your staff. There's also, of course, accounting systems. There's also customer loyalty systems. So just in one restaurant itself, they can have about at least 4 or 5 systems that we are getting data from. So what we do is really to collect that data and then to get maybe some samples from the client first, and then we would help them to build a sample, like a dashboard to kind of show them, okay, this is what your data looks like. Then we work with them to also analyze the kind of trends and to investigate further. Sometimes you realize that there is maybe an issue with the data. For example, what we realize is, for checking in and checking out, right? So we have people who are for attendance, and then you have the issue where people forget to check out. So it's like our safe entry, we also forget to check out, right? So sometimes we check in and then we just go off and then we do our own things and then we forget to check out. So on the app itself, it's as if you're still in the place. So that's the same thing that happens for a lot of all these attendance tracking kind of apps. And we realized that when we were doing that for our client as well, that when they come in, it means their staff comes in, they would tap in, and then after that, the time just runs all the way until next day they may forget to check out or they forget to tap in. So these are different things that we can investigate in terms of the processes. How can the operations be improved in terms of making sure that data is captured accurately, so that we can then look at accurate insights, and it will be based on quality data. So at the end of it, it's really how do we then use the insights to inform the decision-making process. So you must be wondering, like, well, if there's so many different industries, then how do you know what kind of decisions to make, as in like, where does the expertise come from? So we actually do partner with quite a number of subject matter experts. So within our team itself, there's quite a few from different sectors. So we have those from accounting, those that were from banking, those that were from even the biotech kind of sectors. We have those from, like myself, from the civil service, and then there were those from education sectors, and so on. So we have many different ones who have been kind of using their insights from their past experience as well, even to help with some of these things. And we've also worked with some of the FMB consultants and so on to give further input on how they can improve their processes based on their experience. Yeah, so this is how we actually try to give inputs for decision making as well. Okay, so basically this is the whole journey, right? This whole journey that we walk with our clients. So first of all, we start, like I mentioned, is really to find out that business issue. Then we go on to mapping out all the data sources and the definitions. We do a data review to kind of see, okay, where are you at now? If it's okay if there's like, sometimes they'll be like, oh, actually, it's quite manual now. Like it's all over in different Excel sheets and so on. Then we're like, okay, it's fine. We just need to know where the files are, and then we start to look at the different data fields that we would actually require, and then we look at building a template together with the client that can be dynamically like filled in along the way. So either it can be on those shared files where they would then update it, and then we would take the file from there and build the dashboard. And this can be done regularly, or it can be a direct API. So in some of the clients' systems, there's already an existing API, which means that there's a connector. So application program integrator. So there's already one that is already connected. So then we can then help them to integrate the data already based on the APIs that are already there, and then use the dashboard platform that would then directly integrate with the different systems that they have. So the other thing that we would do is also to help them to transform the data. So, sometimes the data in its raw form can't really be used as well. So what we do is we of course use all the formulas and all that to transform the data accordingly, and then to blend it and to derive the required fields that they need to measure. Yeah, and at the end of it, of course, to analyze and then to visualize and to provide the right recommendations as well. So I think one of the things that we want to share so really is about what is it like without a dashboard and what is it like with a dashboard. Yeah, so for those without dashboards, I think before they have all their data in one place, what they realize is that it's quite manual. So usually there are many stakeholders. Maybe there's the finance manager has to fill up something, and then the HR manager has to fill up something, and then when they are reporting to their bosses, maybe on a quarterly or monthly basis, they kind of have to scramble to like pull the data from everywhere, and then somehow come up with some charts, and then they would then present it. But it is not so it becomes a very like laborious and time-consuming process. And very often they do share that there's sometimes quite a lot of overlapping data and maybe sometimes insufficient or outdated information as well. So there may be gaps in the data that they have. So with dashboards, because the data is already integrated back end, or there's been some cleaning done back end as well, what we can do is to help them to already transform it and clean it back end, right? So that what they see front end is really just the dashboard, the clean reports, and this customized just for their business. And this then helps them to make that data-driven decision quickly and dynamically, because the data is already, the data is already updated as of whatever date that, the last update. So probably the end of usually on a monthly basis for our clients. Yeah, so this is one of the things that is really helpful for the dashboards. And what they use it for will be, of course, things like the revenue analysis, as I mentioned. So it can help you with tracking your KPIs, making decisions for revenue growth, and answering all these different questions, as some of the examples that I showed earlier. So maybe you can also think about for yourself in your company, is this some of the things that you are looking at as well? So are you looking at analyzing your revenue? Are you looking at which products and outlets are meeting KPIs? Which outlets have the most sales? Some of these are the questions that you have. Maybe it's what's my most popular item, my least popular item over time? How am I doing in terms of my average sales per receipt in a day? What is my overall profit margin, or my profit margin maybe across a certain period of time and across different categories? Am I breaking even? So there's just many different questions that we do ask ourselves, and this is some of the things that we hope that we can help to also set that foundation as well in the midst of all these changes. That at least you can have a clear picture of kind of what's the current status of the company, so that you can decide also moving ahead, okay, what should I do next as well. Yeah, so this is just now I showed, I think this is the KPI, the sales targets, and this is also some of the other ones in terms of the discount types and the outlets and so on. And for manpower, we'll be looking at things in terms of the total cost, like spend on full-time, part-time staff. Is this some of the questions that you may have in terms of the payroll targets that you have? How do you actually track it and forecast your payroll targets? How efficient are your staff? And can your manpower be better allocated along the way? So this is just different questions that you may have on your mind. I'm not sure whether these are some things that you have. If you do have any other questions, actually, you can just post it in the chat as well, and then I'll be happy to answer that later. Okay, so the one that I showed earlier, so there'll be things like looking across different outlets, across full-time, part-time staff. There'll be things like also the productivity and so on. So, okay. Yeah, so basically for Perceptive Consulting, what we do is to provide this kind of analysis as a service. Our aim is really to make your data come alive. So a lot of these dashboards that we have, eventually you will just receive a link, and then you would then open it in your phone, and then you can then see it wherever you are. You can look at some quick stats in terms of your your total customers, in terms of like new signups, so on. So there are many different things that you can do with the dashboards, and you can use it on the go as well. Yeah. So what we really want to do is to help you to have easy access to your most important and high level like KPIs and data related to like all aspects of your business, and to have this kind of interactive reports at a glance 24/7 as well. So that at any time you just open your link and you can see whatever that you need to see at one glance. Okay, if you're thinking about, how was my sales, my overall profit margin over the last 3 months, I just want to take a look and see how it's been. Yeah, you can just open it up and check to see that. So it's not just for accounting, because I know that for many people you have already, like, maybe you have an accounting software like Xero and so on that has that. But what this would have would be not just the profits, but also other things in terms of looking at your your customer profile and so on. Or you can even have things like your marketing ROI. That's all within one place, so that you can just access the key stats that you want, all the key stats for your business in one place. So basically what we do is analysis as a service. So instead of having an in-house analyst in your team, right, what we do is basically you're outsourcing analysis to us. So we provide it as a service. We then co-create all these dashboards for different businesses. And these are some of the different sectors that we've worked with as well. We are also previously the external advisor to Bean & Co. Dubai. What we've done was a manpower project where we did supply and demand kind of projections for them as well. So these are just some examples of what we have done. And again, back to the same quote that I just mentioned earlier, and I just want to share again that it's really important that whoever unlocks the reams of data and uses it strategically will win. So as long as we are able to unlock that data that we have that's already within our organization, it's actually all there. And what we can do is to use that to really make those decisions, because if not, it's really quite difficult to just kind of think, where do I go from here, especially when there's so much uncertainty. So we find that things are, less, as in we are in a sense less afraid and less anxious when we have more information on hand, right? So what we do is we hope to really be able to bring that kind of information that you need in front of you, just the key information that you need so that you can make your key decisions without having to sift through, many different different Excel sheets and so on to find what you need every time. Yeah. So I think basically that's about all that I want to share today. So basically, if you are looking for analysts to help you transform your data and to help you to navigate as well your whole business in this, especially in this difficult time, maybe we can just have a chat. So you can just connect with me over here and on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, and I'll be happy to share more about what we do. Now I think if there's any questions that you have, please feel free to post it, and I think Rudy or Vincent will be sharing it as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Joanna, for the great sharing. Let's see what questions that we have from the audience. The first one will be, which analytics solution do you use for the dashboard?
Okay. Yeah, so currently we are using multiple platforms. So we have different analysts who are trained in specific platforms. So let's say Power BI, there's Tableau, there's Zoho Analytics, there's Google Data Studio as well. So what we do is we kind of look at which platforms are most suited for the client. So we are not specifically selling any platform. We are selling the services to build on those platforms. So usually we would recommend maybe if they are going to be using they are already using a lot of Google, the Google Drive and so on, and everything is on Google Sheets, then what we would do is to probably recommend Google Data Studio for them, because that would be something that integrates easily. Another thing would be, like, let's say they're already using Microsoft 365 for most of their work, OneDrive, SharePoint, that kind of thing. Then we would recommend Power BI. And if they don't have the license yet, then we may recommend that they would purchase that on their own. But then what we would do is to help them to build the dashboard on it. So that they can then use it, and it would sync up with their SharePoint and all their shared files on OneDrive. So these are some examples of how we would do that. In terms of systems, we also look at the APIs that are available. So for example, Zoho Analytics is integrated with Xero. So a lot of people are using Xero accounting. So we would then probably recommend that if you're using Xero, and you're using maybe another system like that is also integrated with Zoho, then of course we would recommend that you use Zoho as well, and that's what we will build the dashboard on that for them. Yeah.
This one is still about dashboard. How do we keep the dashboard updated?
Okay, so on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, really depending on what the clients need, we would then provide kind of on a subscription basis, some kind of like maintenance for the dashboard as well. So we do offer that. Of course, some of the clients do ask for like if they want to do a one-off one, we also have that. So there's an option of both, either a one-off one or a subscription where they can basically leave it to us to do all the updating for them on a monthly basis. Whenever they need their reports, we just make sure that everything is fully updated, all the data is there. Either that, or if they need to make some changes to the charts and all that, and they would like our help to just do some adjustments to the different categories and so on, we would also do that as part of the maintenance and updating. Yeah.
It's probably the elephant in the room. What data protection measures do you have?
Yes, this is actually a very important part of it. So I think what we do is we have a data protection officer. So it's an external officer who comes in and who also helps us with our data protection policy and so on. So right now, whenever we have a project, what we do is we would go to him to kind of discuss that whole data protection protocol for this particular project. Of course, looking at different things. So first of all, we need to understand what is the client's data protection policy, their own in-house one. And then we would have to make sure that of course, we must adhere to that. And then we would propose, in our proposal, we would also provide some information on our data protection plan as well for this particular project. So it's kind of a customized data protection plan for each project in terms of that client, because we have to look at what is the client's restrictions as well, for their data and what kind of data they're collecting. Of course, as a base rule, we would not be taking in any data that is not required, as in things that are like usually identifiable data and all that is not required for overall like analysis, for business analysis. So we would ask them to just remove all this before it is sent to us, or we would only extract those data from the reports. That means before it's sent to us, there will really be some masking and all that, so that we won't have access to those data points. Yeah.
Joanna, we have learned a lot from you today. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here with us today and share your valuable experience in the Profit from Mistake webinar series, powered by CASEA Dialogue. I'm sure that all CASEA and CASEA friends can learn from your sharing today to use data as our anchor and compass for our businesses.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Joanna Liew, for today's sharing. And thank you to all CASEA and CASEA friends today who are joining us here. So we want to see you again in next webinar of the Profit from Mistakes webinar series. Stay tuned and goodbye for today.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Thanks, Rudy and Vincent. Yeah, goodbye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Joanna. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.